the state of education in the country and how it's been affected by multiple factors, including the rising insecurity in the country. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go straight into it. So far, what is your assessment of education in the country?
Well, generally, if we're going by the insecurity, going by the coming out from the COVID pandemic and all, and then of course with the latest JAMB scores, you know, across the nation, we see that education is in emergency right now, is in crisis, you know, because the insecurity is not even helping matters. Children are being abducted almost on a weekly basis, and they are still, a lot of them are still in their abductors' hands. You know, all these things impact on education, you know. And then again, you look at the JAMB was really poor this year, you know, and this is another call for concern, you know, because when you're having below 30%, you know, pass rates, it's really, it's not something to write home about. It's really bad.
So, like you just mentioned, the JAMB was really low this year. What do you think are the factors that are actually attributed to that?
Like I've been saying, we might not be able to pin, you know, the poor score to just one item. You know that we just came out of the pandemic, and schools were the last to be opened, and you know that, you know, if truth be told, a lot of students were not learning, because even with the online platforms, we're talking about children in public schools, they didn't really have access to those things, and even some private schools couldn't even keep up with those online learning. So you have children coming out of the COVID pandemic, you have the insecurity, and of course, like I said, you don't pin it to a particular thing, because a recent study I just carried out, a recent research, you know, and we were comparing the scores in JAMB in the last 3 years and in WAEC, and part of the things we come up with also teaching methodology. You know, do we need to look into the teaching methodology that is being used, you know, to teach the children? Because if you don't get your instructional design, which is part of the teaching methodology, right, you're not going to be impacting on the students. And then we're talking about children now who have smartphones. We're talking about children, you know, the 21st century learner is totally different from the learners of years ago, you know. So the point I try to make is, are the teachers keeping up with the trends of the students they have now in the classroom? Are you still doing your normal teacher-centered teaching and not learner-centered and so on? You know, so these are, it's a cross-cutting issue, and it's not something you pin to one thing, but it's something we need to have a conversation about and begin to, because we can't continue like this. I mean, it's appalling for a nation to say that you had just less than 30% pass rate, and this is not just this year, it was the same thing last year, it was the same thing 2 years ago. It's terrible.
Right. You mentioned teaching methods and all that. Yeah. Recently, there was someone on social media mentioned, I'm moving on to higher education now, that they found out that a lot of Nigerian students actually, you know, learn from YouTube, and then the lecturers don't even give them what they need anymore. So most times they are focused squarely on YouTube for their education. So at the end of the day, it's almost like they are self-taught. Now, how do we go about, you know, teachers coming back and, you know, following the trend and knowing what's current? And where does it start from? Is it a government thing? Is it a personal thing where the teacher says, I'm going to teach? Can they go against the curriculum if the curriculum is outdated? Where do we start from there?
You know, the system itself, the act that set up the colleges of education, which are supposed to produce the teachers, you know, are to produce teachers for the nation, to fill the manpower gap in education. Now, you look at the system that brings in the teachers. Normally, they will tell you if you have 3 credits in one sitting, or 4 credits in one sitting, you know, which is lower than the standard for people who are going to read other courses in the university or polytechnics. Now tell me, that means you're taking from the lowest, you know, the lowest wrong, you know, to come and learn, you know, to go and study to become teachers. So that system alone is also bad. That system also that takes people who have the lowest in JAMB into colleges of education. Now you're taking the I don't want to use the worst stuff, but that is just what it is. The ones that have been left that couldn't make it in JAMB and so on. Now you also look at the fact that that's on teacher quality. You also look at the fact that what are they being taught even in the colleges of education and so on, and not just colleges of education, like you just mentioned, the university. Yes. And these are the system they have been taught with and they come out with, you know. So sometimes they don't even know better. You sit with someone who said he or she studied English language, and then you're checking the application and you have all red bios, you know, and this person studied English. I'm not saying he studied physics, English language, you know. So the system itself needs to be overhauled. And truly, like you said about the university, I don't know the evaluation, you know, when they are done, how do they evaluate the quality? Because the quality is dropping every day. Ask people who are employers of labor, you know, you call people, you begin to teach them the basics of English language, what is it now, verb and concordance agreements and so on, you know. So it's bad. And then the teachers themselves, like I say, you owe yourself the duty to develop yourself personally. I tell teachers, I said, you can't just, if you go out there, you can't say, oh, because I went to University of Badero, they didn't teach me that. I'm sorry. Nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to know. You know, so I tell them, you must pay attention to your personal development. And again, one of the studies I did, I said that the 21st century student is more well-traveled more than their teachers. Because, okay, this is summer now. If not for COVID, a lot of these children would have gone abroad for holidays. They come back to meet the teacher who did not leave Anyimba, outside Anyimba. You know? So, I asked teachers, so how do you meet up? Because you must teach that child who went to Disneyland and came back. How do you meet up? And that's where the internet comes in. I said the internet has made this easy. Self-develop yourself. It's unfortunate that the nation is this way. We're hoping that it will be overhauled, it will get better. But you can't just say, because this is what the system taught you, you come out and you don't have what to teach the students.
Wow. Now that brings us to the issues of insecurity. Because now we know that even with the little that we have, the issues of insecurity is not even allowing the educational system in Nigeria to grow. Now, more people are dropping out of schools, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, because you can't even go to school where you're not safe. So now, what do you think is the way forward? Because people are not going to school anymore, and that is, we are just talking about the percentage of people that failed JAMB. Imagine the percentage of people that will register next year, because people are not even going to school. So what's the way forward? How do we overcome all of this?
For the insecurity, like I have always said, I said there is decline. Let's be frank. The recent study shows that there's 23% decline, and this was like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, before these latest abductions. And we can't continue this way. Our government needs to prioritize education, and in prioritizing education, they need to prioritize security of the students. Now, I hear a school of thought that says, oh, it's happening in the Northwest, and I say that a threat to one is a threat to all. If you feel that it's happening in the Northwest, and then other schools are, you know, in other parts of the country are learning, we need to also evaluate, are they really learning? Because if a child who listens to news, and most children do, and they know that a child was sleeping in a boarding school in Kaduna, and the child was abducted, and this child is probably in a school in another part of the country, in the boarding school as well, do you think the child's mind will be at rest? So a threat to one is a threat to all. The way forward, government needs to prioritize security in schools, need to prioritize security as a nation, but also in schools. And I have advocated for education in emergency. I've been saying it, and I keep saying it. I say, these areas where, you know, the places where these children are being abducted are called ungoverned spaces, which I also say I do not believe in, because there is no place that is ungoverned. You know, if you say you're not governing the place as a state actor, there are other people governing the place, because nature abhors vacuum. You know, so map out those areas and move the children out from there. There's something called EIE, Education in Emergency. You set up temporary places that are relatively safe. Someone asked me after a program and said, Irene, which place is safe? And I said, to the best of my knowledge, no governor has been adopted. That means there are safe places in every state. So move those children to that place. so that they can receive education. Because I, as an educationist, I do not believe that education should die because there is insecurity. I do not believe that learning should discontinue because there's insecurity. There are other ways to work around these things. And it brings us back to the fact that we have not prepared before now. Because if children are sitting down at home and you have your tablets and so on, and the state actors have done what they are supposed to do, you're just simply to log into your this. And are we not learning from YouTube?
Yes.
Are we not learning? Children who are supposed to go abroad because COVID stopped them, they continue their classes. And some of them have actually graduated. So what are we saying? So I just feel that the way forward is to prioritize education. And that brings us to what the president said at the Global Education Summit. We need to prioritize education. We need to increase spending on education. And we need to spend right on what is necessary in education. But the point is, we must prioritize education. The way we are going now, with children sitting at home, we are going to be having, those children are even exposed. By sitting down at home does not mean they are sitting down at home. Shall we say the idle mind is the devil's workshop? They will be sitting down at home. Some of those boys will be recruited into child soldier and so on. They might become bandits. Some of those girls will get pregnant because you can't stop teenagers from doing what they want to do if they are not, gainfully engaged. So these are things we need to be looking at. That at the end of the day, are we not going to be having more issues? Are we not going to be having issues of sexual and reproductive health? Are we not going to be having more issues of banditry? Because when an SS2 boy is sitting at home and SS3 boy is sitting at home, do you think he's really sitting at home? So these are things we need to prioritize education and increase spending and know that this is our future we are toying with.
Yeah, that is fair. Now, I want to ask about an alternative. We know in the eastern part of Nigeria, we have a system, basically it's called the apprenticeship system, that there's a name for it, I don't know the local name. But anyway,
Ibaboy.
Yes, I think so, yes. It has led to, the establishment of a lot of individuals and, creating jobs and all that, yes. What do you think about the idea of, having that alternative means? Because in a way, it's still a form of education, even though it's not a formal system. Do you think there should be more of that, across the country, or do you think it actually reduces the effect of formal education?
No, the concept of Ibaboy, like we call it in Igbo land, which is the apprenticeship system, even Harvard Business School is studying that model right now. And that model has enriched, and created job opportunities and employment for a lot of, young Igbo boys who hitherto maybe would have become, just losing the society. It's a good concept. It's good, but you see, again, like everything we do, our homegrown things, and that comes to us. Do we appreciate our homegrown solutions? We always want to look for solutions from one country or the other, some of the advanced world, when we have solutions here. That if you look back at some of the traditional African society, some of the traditional African education, you discover that we could pick certain things, and this is one of it. We could marry it with formal education because, okay, these people are learning how to trade. Good. In fact, their IQ is something else.
Yes.
The things they teach them, they don't teach people in business school.
True.
So we need to marry it. It's something that even the government needs to start looking into. I mean, Harvard is studying it now. That's how we see that. That's how we say they stole palm kernel from Nigeria, or they came to collect. Maybe they didn't steal. They collected and went to Malaysia. Now they are bringing the oil back. Now Harvard is studying our Ibaboy system. Now before you know it, now Harvard will make it one model. Now we say, oh, they came to our place to take it, and then we are always reactionary. Let's for once be proactive. We are doing entrepreneurship in school. You see, where I have a problem with entrepreneurship in the university is this: who are the people teaching this entrepreneurship? Still the same lecturers who have never owned a business. I mean, I can't understand it. You've never owned a business, you're teaching entrepreneurship. Why don't you look at a way of bringing some of these people who own the Ibaboy system, to come and teach entrepreneurship in school? I'd rather listen to someone who has been doing business, teach me business, than listen to someone who has been reading books, teach me business. I'd rather listen to a politician teach me politics than who is not a politician, who has been writing. So we need to square pegs in square holes. So it's a good system and it can be integrated. We must find a synergy to bring their homegrown solutions, and they can work for us. It's already working, but it's something we need to recognize and see how we can, integrate it into the system we already have.
Or like what you just said now, you just listed some of the issues we have in the educational system that are actually working properly in the apprenticeship system. Like we have people in the universities that majorly the courses that they study are supposed to be practical courses.
Yeah.
But then they end up going 4 years through theory. And then they graduate. Just taking a look at the statement of the president at the education conference, that if you're not properly educated, you're unemployable. So now imagine you go to school and you're taught a practical course theoretically, and then you graduate, you're still unemployable because you don't know it.
Yes, you're so right. And that's why you have people who studied mechanical engineering. That's what I can't forgive. I've been trying to forgive them, but I've not been able to. How can you study mechanical engineering and you carry your car to roadside mechanic? I've been asking them, as in, how does it work? Then you look at the ones who did computer science those days, they say they didn't see the computer, but they graduated. But you see, as much as we laugh about it, it's not even a laughable thing. Because these are things that, if you have gone through that process, you should be able to create. I'm not even saying looking for a job. You should be able to create employment through that, because this is what you have studied. So it begs, yes, the president said it, but I wish the president can also put it into action. Because now, the trending thing, president said they will increase this, they will do that in Global Education Fund. We say a lot of things in international community, we say a lot of things. And the world even expects us to say things, because after all, we're Nigeria. But the truth is, how do we bring these things down? He says we should increase funding. He's going to increase funding by 50%. And I've been cracking my brain. How are we going to do that? I've thought about it. Where is the fund to increase? But there are ways to increase that funds. There are ways to increase the funds. Cut cost of governance. Yes, if you want to prioritize education. I was in a program yesterday. A particular top political person came. I counted the vehicle that followed the person. I counted about 8. Cost of governance in Nigeria is high. If we must prioritize education, and then it brings to something else. Why do we need them to have all this security? It's because of the insecurity in the country. I ask again, if we really educate every child, insecurity will reduce. I made a quote some years back. I said, the money you do not spend in education now, you use it to build more prisons tomorrow. Because people you're not educating will go into vices. And when they go into vices, you will need prison now to keep them. You will need to feed them in the prison. After all, it's not a hunger strike thing. You need to sew prison uniform. You need to employ people who will take care of them in the prison. Why can't we use that money now to prioritize education and reduce the number of prisons we need to build tomorrow? So reduce cost of governance. Put what's it called? A levy on luxury items. Nigeria is one of the highest consumers of luxury items in the world. Luxury car, luxury goods. Put tax the rich. They are the ones buying those luxury items. If you have to buy a bag of so million, if you add extra little thing on it, we call it educational tax something on luxury goods. You apply it back to education. Even on drinks, it's been done before. During the Awolowo time, or if history serves me right, I think that was one of the ways he funded education in Western Nigeria. They taxed bottle of beer and so on. I think whether 10 kobo or something, if my history serves me right. And as he drinks his bottle, we have regenerated 60 naira that will go into education. And we have a transparent system of, collecting those monies back and putting them in education. For me, that is one of the ways we are going to come out of this quagmire. Because if this is like a sinking ship, we're not funding right, insecurity is there, teacher quality is low, and so just cocktail of different problems. But we must come out of it.
That is fair. Now, what's your advice to state governments who can't actually, like you said they should be moved into the safer regions and all that, but there's a thing where these bandits seem to be expanding day by day. Just today we were talking about what happened in Zamfara State with the father of the Speaker of the House of Assembly was kidnapped. So it's how much can a state really do? And do you think the president is actually, like you said, sometimes we do have to say things. But do you think his statements mirrors the way things are going right now? For instance, while he was at the summit, we have ASU saying that they might be going on strike very soon. And, so the problems are still here while there's a lot of talk going on. And although I also see that about $4 billion has been raised in that regard for education in certain countries. So with all this said, how do you see the government, the president's statement, and how he can help states more, because I don't think states have as much power over security.
I sympathize with the state governors, I must tell you the truth, because a governor who came in probably in 2019 met problems on ground. It's not like he created it. Even the ones who came in 2015, it's something they met on ground. As much as I sympathize with them, I also think that where there is a will, there is a way. If you know that your state is so important to you, you go out of your way to protect your citizen. Be that as it may, I know that the security apparatus were, they've gone back and forth on state policing and things like that. You have community policing and things like that. And really, these things come from the federal, from the center. But I also know that if there are some, I am a big believer in local and homegrown solutions. I'm not, even in my home, I don't look out for, it's good to borrow some things globally, but I try to localize things. Now, what could be the local solutions? These bandits, they abduct 200, 100. I don't know how easy, because I work in the education sector. It's not easy to pack 50 children to go for excursion. Ask any school owner. It is a very tough 50. I'm not saying 100, just 50 children for an excursion. You have called, you are planning. In fact, you give tally, you tell the teachers, let them all take number. When they are getting into the bus, you call yourself one by one to know that you are there, have a partner. Now, I wonder how 100 children will be abducted. What kind of vehicle? And they pass through communities. So, can't we begin to look at the communities and call them as stakeholders in this matter? Can't we begin to ask the communities, that this thing, you can get information, intelligent information, to help us. Can't we begin to look at the local vigilantes and so on in the states? Why the federal are deploying, and I don't know, even the federal, they must be overwhelmed because every day they're calling, but within the local, can't we look at some of these things and see how these local solutions to create, as much as I say, move people out from there. But again, even in the process of moving, have people, watchdogs in the society, security watches in the society to help you. Because at the end of the day, when they abduct, even you, the governor, cannot rest. Is it that they are calling you? Is it that you can't rest if you have a conscience? You can't be sleeping right. Because some children, and you're also a parent, some children have been taken away and their parents are not sleeping, they are neither sleeping nor eating or drinking. All because their children are not fun. And you can't be okay. And of course, it puts a dent on your states. So I think that they should look for homegrown solutions while they're also liaising with the federal.
All right. Thank you very much for this. It was very enlightening and insightful. And you've actually provided a lot of solutions here. And I hope someone is listening somewhere and they make use of it.
Thank you.
All right, that's all we can take this morning on Daybreak Africa. Now we'll be handing over to our Lagos studios, and the program continues. Do have a nice weekend. I am Amadou Nubawi.
And I am Sandra Ago. Bye for now.